I will go ahead and call the meeting to order and ask that the clerk call roll.
Dr. Ramona Becker?
Here.
Guy McDonald?
Here.
Betty Martine?
Here.
Peggy O'Donnell?
Here.
Diane Wynn?
Here.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Wonderful. With all meetings, we will begin with a moment of silent prayer. If you'll bow your heads, please. Amen. Now please rise and join us in the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everyone in the audience tonight, all of those watching at home or later. I do want to make a quick little sidebar announcement that we are monitoring the weather and everything looks to be okay at this point. But if for some reason it all goes crazy, we will be notified in time of that, hopefully. So again, we are watching that. And we do have a pretty full agenda, so we'll try to get through that before this crazy weather that they're talking about. We do have a presentation from Waste Connections on the agenda. We have 3 different proclamations, an ordinance, a number of easements that need vacated. We're going to look at a revised financial policy, and we have a couple of appointments. So like I said, a pretty full agenda, and we will keep an eye on the weather this evening. But I'll begin tonight's meeting by asking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of our May 2nd regularly scheduled council meeting and our May 9th special council meeting that we had just a few minutes before the workshop.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
First and second, are there any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next, item 7 is appropriations ordinance. For this meeting, it totals $794,297.23. So just kind of a breakdown of that, $424,000 of that went towards paving 53rd Street from Rock Spring to Webb Road, and another $163,000 for infrastructure improvements in several of the other housing developments. So wanted to kind of let you guys know some of the things that made this a little bit higher this meeting than normally. We also had our monthly IT support. $12,000 went for generator repairs at the Harding Sewer Lift Station, and $39,000 for the upgrades at the UP crossing there on 37th Street. So a little explanation on the high appropriation ordinance for this meeting.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve appropriations ordinance 17-10.
Second.
First and second, are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, item 8, it's I'd like to welcome Herschel West from Waste Connections. If you'd come to the podium, and we'll hear an update from you, and welcome.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Herschel West with Waste Connections. I was invited here to discuss a couple things. One is the shred day you guys had on May 6th. There was, got some information, there's 116 participants and 5,600 pounds, so almost 3 tons of material or paper that was disposed of. And it was, I got a certificate of destruction that it was destroyed, so there's no concerns there. There's a company that they...
Oh! I thought it was open.
What's that?
Sorry. Almost had a little accident.
The lid's on.
The underground vaults and storage are NAID certified NAID, so that means that your stuff did get destroyed. I was talking to Ty a few minutes ago. We didn't have the shredder truck this year because, one, when Tristan called me to set that up a couple, 2 or 3 months ago, I waited 2 or 3 weeks to set your date up, and the shred truck has already been taken. So if we can get a date sooner, like I was telling Ty, that maybe the 2nd, 3rd, 4th week in May, I will schedule it now so we'll make sure we have that shred truck here.
That's good.
For you guys' shred day. Any questions on that?
Yes, I was a participant in that event, and there were several people who came to us to complain that the shredding truck wasn't there. And they were complaining because the Lions Club and the city had advertised that we had a shredding truck on site. And as you well know, and you've done this in the past, there are some people who will not leave their documents unless they can see the actual shredding process take place. And several of those people had some negative comments, and we assured them that next year we would have a shredding truck on site. Now, I was unaware of the reason why the shredding truck was not there, and you've just explained that. And I can assure you that the Lions will be able to give you a date a year in advance if necessary.
Yeah,
and I'm sure the city will comply with that also. And I'm sorry that did occur, because now some people, very few, but some will not return because of that. And so that can be not only have a dampening effect on what we have built up over the past several years. It could. I'll stop there. We would not like anything negative to happen. We are pleased that it has increased and has built up, and that the citizens of Bel Aire, some of which now look forward to coming in May to get rid of primarily their paperwork, but the idea that they can get rid of electronics also, I think has increased their interest, a lot of people's interest. I think we had I don't know what the percentage increase was over last year for electronics, but it was significant. We had a large, significant increase in people dropping off laptops and phones and similar items. So I was happy to hear your explanation as to why it was not there, and I can assure you that the city and the Lions Club will do everything they can to assure that that does not happen again. And if we do get in advance, I have your assurance, enough time in advance, that we will have a shredding truck out.
I will make that, I will schedule that as soon as I get a date.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. And again, I apologize. The second reason here is to talk about the 2% increase that we are requesting. First of all, I'd like to thank you. I don't think I've thanked you personally for the new 10-year agreement that was signed last year. So in that agreement, it asks that we request, and hopefully we can negotiate a 2% increase each year. So that's why I'm here today. And for the 2% increase, I guess just the cost of doing business. Fuel, just in fuel, went up 17 cents, diesel per gallon from year to year. It's like a 6 to 7% increase. Steel, we deal a lot with steel. That has increased by 5%. Health insurance, I mean, just the cost of doing business has increased, and we're asking for a 2% increase to the rates, to the existing rates. When we just started your new rates last year, the 10-year agreement, you guys were at $16.68 per month for a 95-gallon cart and 95-gallon recycle cart. We reduced that to $12.50 with the 10-year agreement. You give us some time, we'll give you some price reductions. So, that's a $14.18 decrease, and the 2% for this year would be very appreciated if we are allowed that 2% increase.
Appreciate you being here. Any other questions or comments for Mr. West?
I have some comments. Mr. West. I recognize the 2%. I recognize that your costs are going to generally increase year over year. Relative to the fuel increase, you're as much aware as I am that the cost of fuel in this country has decreased dramatically.
Yes.
And in the future, unless a catastrophe happens, in which case this conversation will have no meaning whatsoever. But in the normal course of events, with all of the indigenous oil and gas that this country is producing, we're going to be the major the major producer of oil and gas in the future. The price is going to go down. So I understand your argument there, but I don't think it's going to impact you as greatly as it has in the past 15, 20, or 30 years. In addition to that, with the 2%, there were some members of council who questioned the 10-year length. And I understand the reason for your wanting to have a 10-year contract, because that gives Waste Management 10 years without competition. Now, of course, either side can break the contract. I understand that. But if we enter into this 10-year contract, then we get the benefit of 2%, not 5% or 6% or 8%, and not giving us the 6% fuel increase, the diesel price increase, and that's good. But you then get the guarantee that this city is going to do that. So it's mutually beneficial. And so I bring these things up to let you know that members of this council, I'm not the only member who thinks like this, are aware, and there was extreme reticence to go for that 10-year contract, but after consideration, we decided to do so, and so far, we're happy to have done that. But each year, we would like to have a discussion, as we're talking right now, to talk about those things that have occurred during the year that will perhaps indicate the benefit of the contract, or indicate that there might be some things that should be addressed and maybe altered to some degree. So I thank you for coming here and making the presentation, and I'm sorry to be the only person on council to speak to you about that. And I spoke in a relatively negative way, but it's not all, what I said was not all negative. There's positive in there too. So I thank you again.
No, I thank you very much.
Other questions? Comments? Thank you for being here.
Thank you for coming.
No problem.
Appreciate you being here. I do want to deviate from the agenda just for one quick second, because while I was checking the weather update, got a breaking news alert. So to let folks know, Heights High School graduation has been postponed at least an hour due to a bomb threat at Koch Arena. So I would ask that you keep that in your thoughts and prayers, and hopefully it turns out to be nothing. But since obviously Heights High School, a number of students from Bel Aire attend that school. So we'll keep an eye on that. But the graduation that was supposed to start at 7 o'clock, they're saying the absolute earliest that it could start is 8 p.m. now. So it's going to be a long night, and then we have the weather. So let's get back to it. Do have 3 proclamations I'd like to read this evening. The first one is for National Kids to Parks Day. Whereas May 20th is the 7th National Kids to Parks Day, organized and launched by the National Park Trust. And whereas National Kids to Parks Day empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoors and visit America's parks. And whereas it is important to introduce a new generation to our nation's parks because of the decline in park attendance over the last decades. And whereas we should encourage children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat the issues of childhood obesity, diabetes, hypertension. And whereas National Kids to Parks Day is open to all children and adults across the country to encourage a large and diverse group of participants. Whereas National Kids to Parks Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and the outdoors. Therefore, I, David Austin, Mayor, do hereby proclaim to participate in National Kids to Parks Day And I urge all residents of Bel Aire to make time on May 20th to take the children in their lives to a neighborhood, state, or national park. I'm not sure what I did with my pen. Sign that. And pass that down. Okay. Next one is for Memorial Day to the citizens of Bel Aire, Kansas. Whereas since 1868, Memorial Day has been uniquely an American day of remembrance on which we pay our respects and honor the memory of more than 1 million Americans who died in battle and made the ultimate sacrifice for our country and our freedoms. And whereas in keeping with the traditions that have preceded us, many of us have friends and family members who have selfishly given themselves to the future of this great nation and who we honor on this day. And whereas these soldiers were sometimes child, spouse, parent, and it is important that we remember every single day in this great nation that our freedom came at a price. Whereas veterans have bravely served in all parts of the world, not only fighting for our freedom, but for all mankind. Whereas the city of Bel Aire, Kansas joins with other cities throughout the state of Kansas, the United States of America, honoring those who have given their lives and recognizing that their sacrifices were noble, their heroism unparalleled, and their dedication to God and country unforgettable. Therefore, I, David Austin, by virtue of the power and authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Bel Aire, do hereby proclaim May 29th as Memorial Day. Pass that on. And third and final one here is Public Works Week, May 21 through 27, to the citizens of Bel Aire. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives. And whereas the support of an understanding and informed public is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs, including water, sewer, streets, public buildings, solid waste collection, landfill, wastewater disposal, code enforcement, and engineering to provide these essential services to our citizens. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services, and whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skills of public works officials. Whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff Public Works Department is materially influenced by people's attitudes and understanding the importance of the work they perform. Therefore, I, David Austin, Mayor of the City of Bel Aire, do hereby proclaim the week of May 21 through 27 as Public Works Week. Building for today, planning for tomorrow. Okay. Citizens' concerns at this time. This is when we will open it up if anyone wishes to address council this evening. Hearing none, we'll move on to reports, and we'll start with Dr. Becker.
Thank you, Mayor. I noticed around the city over the last week or so that there were lots of family gatherings and homes with lots of cars around them, and I imagine that's due to all the graduation ceremonies and people celebrating their children graduating. And I think that's a wonderful thing. We sure had a lot in our neighborhood. So we can really be proud of our kids in this area, and some of them are adults graduating from college even. But we do have a very well-educated populace here in Bel Aire that we can be thankful for. I want to say I hope everybody had a lovely Mother's Day over the weekend. I know I did. And that's always good for us to remember those who have done so much for us. I am planning to attend the Reap McConnell tour tomorrow afternoon, and I'm looking forward to that. Tomorrow I'm even looking forward to this more. I get a new cast on my hand. And I want to tell you, I'm not copying after our council president, Martine, and I encourage all the rest of you not to follow our suit of breaking a bone or two. I'm looking forward to our open house on Thursday and want to encourage everybody to attend. And I've got one more event on Thursday, and that is the reboot camp at the WSU Experimental Engineering Building. And that sounds like a real exciting afternoon, so I'm really excited about that. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Wonderful. Councilman McDonald?
Mr. Mayor, as I mentioned, I attended the shredding and electronic destruction of devices last Saturday, and we did have the problems that I described, and I'd like to assure those people who are watching and those in the audience who have an interest in it that next year that will not occur for the reasons that I gave and the city manager agreed with by his, which the city manager agreed with. So please come again next year. This is a good event for the city. It's a good event for our Lions Club, and we think it's of great benefit to the citizens of Bel Aire to shred their paperwork and get rid of excess electronic material that they have nowhere else to send it. In addition to that, Mr. Mayor, I was very happy to receive the handwritten responses from our citizens relative to what they thought the future of Bel Aire should be like in regard to expansion and the location and the creation of parks and of businesses and of a center city, and their concerns about the lights at 45th and Woodlawn and 45th and Oliver, and several other significant things that the citizens are concerned about. At least one council member has read through the entire list of handwritten comments, and I have put more than an hour in. I've gotten through about 1/4 of them, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is the copy, both sides, of what you have sent in. And I would like to commend those citizens who took the time and made the effort and thought about what would be good for this city, to put it down on paper, to tell the members of this council what their thoughts were, so that this council could emulate the best of what they have written, and consider what the majority think is the best way for this city to proceed. And so my most sincere congratulations and commendation to those who took that time and made that effort. In addition to that, Mr. Mayor, before this council ends under discussion and future issues, I'd like to make some more comments, and I have a request of you, Mr. Mayor, in that period of time, which will take just probably 30 seconds, a minute and a half, depends upon how things go. And that, Mayor, ends my report.
Okay. Councilman McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I do want to echo what Dr. Becker said about wishing all the graduates the best wishes. I'm sorry to hear about Heights having that problem tonight. I know Northeast Magnet had theirs last night, I believe, and their school is out on Wednesday, and then Sunrise has our graduation Friday night. School is out next Wednesday, so the traffic should slow down considerably for people in the mornings and afternoons. And I know the public's probably seen, but you can now go at least, I think, I don't know, but we can get out of the Eagle Lake area now onto 37th Street. So I just think that's wonderful how fast that's going. And I can't go, I'm sorry, I'm glad you're going tomorrow, Dr. Becker, to that. I still have classes, but that sounded really interesting. And then I just wanted to tell Mr. Lasher and his staff what a great job they did on Friday. I just was wanting to tell you that everyone at our school commended you, that we were able to get out the word. Personally got calls from staff. I know all of you probably got phone calls, but I just couldn't be happier with the way your staff and Ann and everyone handled the situation. And of course, it was a quick one with the water problem, but I thought it was great that you called every business and every school, and it just tells people, I know people don't like to, but get on your social media, because now you'll find out a lot of stuff. So thank you, Mr. Lasher, and everyone have a great Memorial Day. I'll be taking my kids to nationals in Louisville. I think we might go to Churchill Downs and the Louisville Slugger even museum if we get a chance, but have a great Memorial weekend. Thank you.
Councilmember Nguyen?
Very short, to echo some of the issues that were heard regarding the shredding day. The flyer that everyone received had mentioned that there would be some type of a crusher there for the electronics. We used the same exact company for that, and you have to be a little bit cognizant of what it would take to have something like that on site, moving it there, having the power to run it, and what have you. And I have known Dave, who owns Electronics Recycling, or whatever he may have named it this year, and actually worked with him a long time. I will assure you that those electronics are broken down, demagnetized. Some of them are recycled, because I handed him two and said, you can fix these, and then you can sell one of them back to me. But I just didn't want there to be any kind of thing that there was a problem with that either, because it's exactly the same as we were used in years past. So that's all.
Martine?
Well, I spent almost 3.5 hours, I don't know what night, reading all the comments, and I wrote notes beside them, and I appreciated the people of Bel Aire sending those in and taking the time to write their comments, what they wanted and they didn't want. Hopefully that we can follow that. The other thing, I'd like to wish Dr. Becker a belated birthday. Her birthday was yesterday, so
Happy birthday.
anyway, and that's all I have, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I've got a question of Councilwoman Nguyen. I was under the impression that on the electronics truck, there was someone who was taking out the hard drives from computers and crushing them on the spot. That did not take place? I was told that that's what they were doing, but...
I would be surprised if that
Okay.
was. Again, I read the flyer. I didn't crawl up in the truck to see, and I was there at 9:05, and there was a line.
Yes.
And so I was more concerned with, I had a carload full of things that I had brought from work, actually, because that's where we take our electronics, is to their facility normally, but having it here was a lot closer. So I could drop them off. And he just laughed, when I handed him those two. They were UPS systems, and they need batteries. And I went, here, fix these, and then call me, and I'll buy them back from you. So, because he's done that for me before. So, but yeah, usually they're, demagnetized and all kinds of things first, and then ground usually. So I don't know.
I will, there's a Lions board meeting tomorrow. I will bring that subject up, and if someone knows exactly that, then I'll report it at the next.
Yeah, that'd be
at the
good.
next camp, because I don't know. I was told, and you're told many things that
Yeah.
aren't necessarily true. But I'll check into it and report back.
Mr. Mayor, the one gentleman that called me that was real upset about it, he said there was nothing there. You just put them in
Nothing
in
there?
the box and they put them on the truck. But I didn't go around and check, so I don't know.
I'll investigate and see if something like that can be done, or if Councilwoman Diane, as Diane says, it's a big device and they're probably not going to bring it out to the parking lot. But I'll report that next time.
Mayor, could I say a couple more things? First of all, I didn't mention the shredding, but I took another big box this year like I do every year. And I don't know whether other people do this, but the thing that is most valuable to me is I keep all my junk mail all year and I throw it in a big box so that I don't have to take the time to take my name off of it and shred it myself. And that just saves me hours and hours and hours of time. So I don't know if anybody else has thought of using it that way, but it is so handy. Rather than going through all your junk mail and taking your name off, just put it in a box and wait till we have our shredding day. And the other thing I wanted to say, I wanted to thank our city manager for getting those comments for us and making all those copies. I know that was a lot of work. So I know we all appreciate that, and I'm glad the other members mentioned that because I neglected to. But thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, council members. Nothing formal to report, but I just want to say a big thank you to our City Hall staff. I spent the better part of Friday afternoon up here dealing with the water boil issue, and what a lot of you don't know is Ann Stevens had scheduled to take that afternoon off and did not. Tristan was tweeting from a wedding that she not only was just attending, but was actually in. So we've got a great staff here. And I got to see that firsthand, spending Friday afternoon up here when Ann and I were speaking with the media. And from everybody downstairs answering questions, and I got a number of texts and calls on my personal phone call, and I know they just over and over, and then to do the reporting on Saturday, that just really did my heart good. And I do publicly want to again acknowledge and thank our staff that none of us had planned on. Anybody had a to-do list for Friday is probably out the window. So for that, but a big thank you for that, and do look forward to the open house on Thursday. A couple of council members have mentioned the survey, and so just hearing from the public and how we'll shape that agenda. So but that's all I have to say, and pass it on to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a few items to cover. Council had mentioned the community, the forum that we're having. Open house is 5 to 7 Thursday here at City Hall, so people can just come and go as you like. There'll be some snacks, and we have, I think we were counting 6 different stations people can come and learn things about or give their opinions about. One, we've got, our city staff has been working on a master bike and hiking plan. So there were some questions in the survey about that. We've been reviewing the comments, and this is a time, if you weren't able to complete the survey, or if you've thought of something after the survey, you send it in, come and please look at what we've put together, give us your comments. This plan doesn't mean that we're going to go out and start installing the sidewalks and things immediately. What it does is gives us a vision of what the community wants, where we need to attach our sidewalks and our walking and biking plans to, and then it allows us to use that plan. Council will eventually approve the plan, adopt the plan for us, and then we can use that for grants. Most grants that you apply for want to have a plan that they can review and see that we're working towards something. They don't want to just give you money for a mile's worth of bike trail, not knowing where it's going or what it's linking to and things like that. So it's going to be very helpful and needed for applying for grants, and that's what we'll be using that for. Marlon Penner's going to be here, who does helps us greatly with all of our marketing, and he's he wants to hear from citizens about what kind of businesses they'd like to see. As he's looking at commercial and retail and industrial businesses, it's going to help him when he's going to specific businesses and saying, well, consider Bel Aire, to know that people are looking for something like that, whether it be a coffee shop or grocery store, whatever it is people would like to see in Bel Aire and could use on a regularly basis. He's going to be here. He just wants to hear from you, and he's going to use that information in our marketing. Council paid to have a plan review of Eagle Lake and LaSalle Heights Lake, which they're basically two drainage lakes that were built for the development, and we've heard different issues from folks that are around those, and so they've done some work on that. So come and if you have questions about Eagle Lake or LaSalle Heights Lake, then they'll be able to answer that, and then they will eventually within the next month come to council meeting and give you a presentation as well, and so the public at home. So if you can't make it this Thursday, they're going to be bringing it and sharing it via the council meeting. And then there's going to be a station for the overall growth plan. So council hired a firm, Law Kingdon, to kind of put together an overall growth plan for the city of, you know, what would be good on different corners, what kind of uses would be good. And so again, they want citizen input to say that, yes, if there was something at Rock and 45th, that would be great for me because I go that way all the time, or something like that. And again, that's going to be used for our marketing, so that as Marlon's talking to businesses and with the growth we're having, we'll be getting more interest in possibly some retail. He can go to them and say, the citizens of Bel Aire have told me this is what they want, this is the corner they think, or these are the corners they think would be good because that's the way they travel, things like that. And then lastly, the Parks Master Plan. So come and give some thoughts about you know, the location, what kind of things you think are important in a park, those types of things. So again, it's just following up on the surveys that went out, and then they will be bringing those to council for council final review and adoption. So if you can't make it again, you'll be able to see that here at the council meeting. The council will give their final input based on what they're hearing from the comments and things like that. So a lot of things happening in Bel Aire that we'd like to have the citizens come and tell us if we're on the right track, if they've got suggestions or whatever. So like I said, it's a come and go, and if you just want to come and talk about the bike trail and leave, that's fine. Come and do that. Or if you just have a question about Eagle Lake, come and find out the answer, and you can head home or stay and visit each one. But we hope to get a good turnout. We did get notice this week that the city has again received the recognition as a Playful City USA for 2017. And if you've noticed on some of our entrance signs, they've got Playful City USA. And so that's something that will officially be announced by the organization tomorrow, but I wanted to let council know before it comes out tomorrow at 10 that we did get that. And so we'll be getting some information out via social media when we start hearing from Playful City USA people about our induction again. I think this is like our third or fourth year. And and that's why the Parks resolution you approved, that helps us with that application and stuff. So some of the resolutions that you help us with, different pieces that we're applying for and things like that. The Central Park Pool opens a week from Saturday, so May 27th. So the participation has really been going up for the last several years, so people like to swim and like to swim close to home. The pool at Central Park will be opening. You can buy single-day passes, individual passes, family passes, all that's available. They do swim lessons and everything, so they always open Memorial Day weekend, and that's a week away. And then the last thing related to the Memorial Day resolution, of course, City Hall will be closed on May 29th, which is a week from Monday, so I wanted to let everybody know that. So I think that was all I had, Mayor.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to ordinances, resolutions, and final actions. First thing before council this evening is the Chisholm Creek Utility Authority. I think we spoke a little bit about this was at the workshop. It's some good news here for us, actually. Going to be refinancing some of its debt, doing so to lower the interest rate. Bel Aire, as you know, is a partner with CCUA, so we have to approve this refinancing. Kevin Callan is here, so I'll invite you to come forward and explain in greater detail so we can know what action we're taking tonight.
Good evening. This is a good trip tonight to talk about saving money. As the mayor mentioned, Chisholm Creek Utility Authority has acted to refinance some of its bonds, some Series 2007 bonds, and it's really the largest bond issue that Chisholm Creek Utility Authority still had. And they are refunding the bonds, Series 2007 bonds maturing in 2018 and thereafter, and the total principal amount of those bonds is $14,290,000. The refunding issue, Series 2017 bonds, would be in the amount of $13,530,000. The sale of the bonds generated quite a bit of premium in the market, about $765,000, plus there were some reserve amounts that had to get released with the changing debt service amount. So you go from, or Chisholm Creek Utility Authority goes from having $14,290,000 outstanding in this particular series of bonds to $13,530,000, and it generates a significant amount of savings. About $1,830,000 in savings over time. The present value of that, which we kind of like to look at today's dollars, that's $1,394,000. And you may have heard me talk about this before, but whenever an issuer is considering a refinancing, kind of the baseline that the market looks at is at least 2% present value savings, maybe a little better than that. Some would say 3%. So the present value savings compared to the outstanding debt service that's being refunded, if that's 3%, let's say, or more, that's a deal worth doing. And the numbers I just mentioned generate 9.7% present value savings. So really a strong deal. And so your action tonight is simply to pass an ordinance or consider passage of an ordinance that will supplement your service agreement with Chisholm Creek Utility Authority to reduce the payment schedule. And I joke, you don't have to do this. Chisholm Creek's going to issue the bonds and generate the savings. You just would be paying in more than they needed to service the debt on the bond. So this is the 5th supplemental service agreement, and we've had additional bond issues, we've had refinancing, so this is the 5th time we've supplemented or amended that original service agreement, and usually it has been to reduce your payment schedule, and that's what we're talking about doing tonight. So again, the ordinance approves that supplement to the service agreement and then all the other sort of closing documents and things that city officials would have to sign in advance of the closing. And I will mention Piper Jaffrey and Greg Varenberg was the underwriter on this issue, and he started monitoring the transaction for Chisholm Creek Utility Authority, I believe in September, because we knew these Series 2007 bonds would be callable for redemption September of this year. And so you want to kind of get ahead of the game, and that's what we're doing now. We want to close in June. There's a federal tax law that allows you to do this sort of refunding and close within 90 days of the redemption date. So this is about as early as we could do it, but you want to monitor it as you go along. And he touched base with Chisholm Creek Utility Authority several times. This is where the market is, sort of thing. And the final details of the deal, the actual deal, were better than anything that had been shown as we went along. So we're living right or really fortunate and lucky, but turned out to be a nice deal.
Wonderful.
I appreciate you guys
I
looking
have
at
a
that.
question, Mr. Mayor. That's a significant, extraordinary savings for the city of Bel Aire. And I would like you to tell us succinctly how this occurred. I am assuming that it's because of interest rates.
Yes.
In 2007 and in 2017, and that because of that, we're able to do this, but I don't know the intricacies of that. If you could explain
No,
that.
I'm glad you asked the question because I made a note and I hadn't mentioned it yet. It is. Interest rates are lower now than they were in 2007, at least with respect to these bonds. And whenever bonds are issued, or typically when bonds are issued, they aren't callable for redemption at any time. We call it call protection. So even when the city issues its bonds, if it's a 20-year bond issue, you may not be able to call those in and pay them off early for 7 or 8 years. And then the investors know, okay, for 7 or 8 years, I know I'm going to get that return. After that, if there's a refinancing opportunity, if there's a windfall that the city has, they can pay me off early. So 2007 bonds were issued 10-year call protection, so they could not be redeemed until this year, 2017. So whatever interest rates might have done in the last 10 years doesn't really matter. We couldn't take advantage of that, but we can this year. And the difference in rate, the bonds that are being refunded, the average interest rate was almost 4.5%, and the average interest rate on these refunding bonds, the new bonds, is a little less than 3.25%. So more than 1%, almost 1.25% differential just on the rate. And then when you apply that to millions and millions of dollars over a number of years, it turns into a big number.
Thank you for that explanation.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say, and I appreciate council members, Guy's question, that the CCUA, when they came to us last fall and said, those of us that sit on the board, that this was going to be something they were watching, both cities were very happy that this is going to occur. So thank you for your work.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
I like the way you talk.
Save money.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is wonderful.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve an ordinance supplementing ordinance numbers 365, 417, 457, 517, and 586 of the City of Bel Aire, Kansas, authorizing the execution of a 5th supplemental water supply and wastewater service agreement with Chisholm Creek Utility Authority, and authorizing all other necessary documents and actions with respect thereto, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and second, questions or comments? Being that it's an ordinance, it does call for a roll call vote. Dr. Ramona Becker,
Aye.
Guy McDonald,
Aye.
Betty Martine,
Aye.
Peggy O'Donnell,
Aye.
Diane Nguyen.
Aye.
Okay. Didn't think we'd have a problem with that. but so
No,
we go through the
I'll tell you
process.
that, this is an easy one. I wish they were all this easy.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you much. Okay. Next item B, we heard a little bit about this from our public presentation, the multi-year agreement with Waste Connections for solid waste and recycling that was signed last year. Does allow for them to ask for this 2% increase. And as you heard earlier from our guest, that from Mr. West, that Waste Connections is requesting a 2% increase for 2017.
I have a question. Mr. Lasher, were you able to talk to them as we talked about our workshop about maybe a different amount, or is this what we have to present, the 2%?
That's what they requested.
Okay, so, but we could change it if we wanted as a council to 1%, but we just don't know if they would sign it, correct?
Well, actually, I think it's whatever you decide you'd like to give them.
Okay.
So if you decide you'd like to give them nothing, then I think you would do that, or 1% or 0.5% or whatever. So they're requesting 2%, and it would be up to the council to decide if you want to do anything.
Okay. And there is money in there, but we talked about we didn't want to start setting this precedent this soon, but, okay, thank you.
comments or a motion, thoughts on this?
Mr. Mayor, I probably should say something. I reminded Mr. West about some council members' reticence to sign a 10-year agreement, but overall, in any contract, in order for it to be agreeable to both parties, there has to be benefits to both parties. And I simply, when I spoke to Mr. West, wanted to point out that we understood the benefits to him. And of course, his presentation was primarily to let us know what the benefits were to the city of Bel Aire. And so I appear to be a bit negative about it, but overall, with the amount of savings that we will receive over the 10 years, if the contract lasts that long, that's one of the questions, then I think that we should vote in a positive manner on this.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I just hate to give them exactly what they ask, because I know it will come back every year that same way. I understand the need to build some cushion in there for increased costs and things like that, but their costs out here have not truly increased. Okay, I mean, it's the same customers. As far as I know, they didn't really change any routes or anything else. As Mr. McDonald mentioned, gas has actually been down. I don't follow diesel prices that much, so I don't know. You know, gas here, I was in Oklahoma a couple weekends ago, and it was $1.97 a gallon down there, and so there are negotiated prices on some of that too. I don't mind giving them a little bit, but I just hate to do the whole 2%.
And I think we should do something. I do think diesel is up.
Yes.
Yes.
But that's artificial, by the way.
Well, we.
Okay, but it's
we
real.
all understand that,
It's real.
right?
It's a real increase.
It's real at the pump.
That's right.
So these are some of the things that we talked about when we went into this agreement, and I was glad that we were able to enter into this agreement for the significant savings. And I just want to remind everybody that even if we were to go ahead and do the full 2%, we're still significantly below where we were
Absolutely.
This time last year. So, again, just some more food for thought. But
I can make another
Yeah,
comment,
go ahead.
Mr. Mayor. I was aware of some of the comments that council had made on other occasions relative to this contract and the 2%, and I had similar feelings, but I didn't realize that there were at least two other members of council who had some misgivings about the 2%, and for sound reasons. So after having said that, I think that council could vote or should vote on this contract in a positive way for the 2%. Now that I've discovered that there are two members, the council might want to consider a lower amount of percentage, is what I'm thinking. And 1.5, something like that comes to my mind, but I speak only for myself, and that's not something that I firmly believe in or that I'm firmly suggesting. I'd like other council members to comment on what their thoughts might be and what the consequences might also be.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more comment to that. I know Councilmember Wynn said you don't want them to come back every year with that, but I'm not convinced they will come back with that every year. I mean, they might, but
No doubt whatsoever. I
You
have
think
no
they
doubt.
will?
Oh, I definitely will.
We can always say no, other years too.
Yes,
Right. Okay.
yes, that's true.
Right,
That's true.
okay.
All right, so we've heard 2%, we've heard kind of all over. I'm going to jump on board here. I don't get a vote, but I kind of like the suggestion. I know it wasn't a solid suggestion, but 1.5, something along those lines. Yeah, you don't want to give them, speaking out loud here, you don't want to give them everything, but at the same time, some good faith.
Right.
So that I would concur. Mr. McDonald.
I also think that's a good idea. I'm a negotiator when it comes to price and spending money. I always negotiate everything I buy. And I'd certainly be in line with that as long as our city manager thinks that won't jeopardize our contract in any way.
No, I mean, the way we read the contract is that they have the ability to come and request it, and it's up to council to determine whether you want to give them anything, or they can't ask for more than 2%, but if you want to give them less, then that's fully within the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, one of the terms that Mr. West used was negotiate when he was making his presentation. Now, negotiate means talk back and forth, everybody gets to speak. But right after that, he said, we're asking for 2%. Boom. I also would be willing to, offer them something at a lower rate. The 2% just kind of grates on me because of the way it was presented, I guess.
A businessman always asks for everything they can get.
And I've been known to do that myself, so.
Yes. So you see both sides of it.
Yes, I do.
Further comment, Councilwoman Nguyen's comments were particularly pertinent. I wasn't thinking along those lines prior to my speaking, but this is not the most expensive part of the country in which to live and to work, and her comments about the increase in cost in this area not really being dramatic, if increased at all in some areas, struck home when I heard those remarks, and I think that they're very true. End of my comment there.
Lots of great comments, a lot of great options here. Kind of reading between the lines on the consensus where some of us were around the 1.5. But I think it's time it would entertain a motion. If someone would like to put forth something, and we can make a decision on that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would make a motion to counter the 2% price increase request for trash and recycling fees for the next 12 months by Waste Connections, to reduce that percentage to 1 1/2%, period.
I would second that.
We have a first and second to approve 1.5 with Waste Connections. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. Okay, C through G. So the next 4 or 5 items here. Developer of the courtyards at Elk Creek is requesting several easement vacations. This will allow modifications to homes being built. All utility companies were notified to ensure that there was no problem, that there weren't any problems with vacating an easement being used by a utility company. The Planning Commission approved these moves at their meeting last Thursday. I see that Jason Gish with MKEC is here and I'm sure be happy to discuss any of these or answer any questions if anyone has any.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Jason Gish with MKEC on behalf of Perfection Builders. We did go through these with the Planning Commission and tried to explain them in detail to make sure they were familiar with what we're doing and why we're making the request. But generally, as the Mayor mentioned, we had some opportunities to, as we got into the final design, review with the city engineers some tweaks and some removal of some easements that just kind of help us clean things up and give the developers more opportunities to have some 3-car garage lots, etc. So it's those kinds of things. And if you have any in particular that you'd like me to go through, I'd be more than glad to do so.
Any questions? And of course, this was in the packet, so yeah, we can see with a little bit of easement, exactly like you said, a little bit more flexibility for the home buyer.
Yeah, it's basically, do you have a pointer by chance? I didn't bring one. Well, anyhow, I don't know if you have this version in your packets there, but for instance, I'll just give you one example. Between lots 25 and 26 of Block 1, so that's there just off that little brow on Prestwick. There was a utility easement in there, a drainage and utility easement rather, and we originally in our drainage report were planning to have a low point out in Prestwick there, and that would be our storm sewer route. And we were able to, what we think, came up with a better design, reviewed that with the city engineer, and instead are routing that a little bit further north down the Turquoise Trail Street. So we didn't need that little leg, if you will, between those two homes. So that, checking with the utility companies, they weren't going to need it either. So that's why we came before and asked the Planning Commission and you to approve the vacation of that particular one. And they're all very similar to that.
So when that easement is vacated, then if someone buys that property, that's included in the property without the easement.
That's right. Right. And exactly. There was it was encumbered. Part of that property was encumbered by the easement, and now the process, if you approve it, would eliminate it altogether.
Good.
Well, I think this sounds like a great idea because people really want 3-car garages whenever possible.
These are, it's just it helps from a marketing perspective to have a certain percentage of
Right.
the homes, and obviously more of them still in that community will be 2-car, but this just provides some other opportunities, and they very much appreciate it.
That's great.
Yeah.
I like flexibility. So again, these are the next 5 items C through G. I'm guessing these would all need to be a separate motion, or could we make a motion as long as each lot and block is listed?
Each one will be filed separately.
Okay, so it's just-
so we'll need to have a motion on each one.
We can read fast.
Let's do it.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve an order vacating certain portions of drainage and utility easements on property located within the corporate city limits of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, Lot 11 of Block 2, Reserve 4, and Preswick Court in the courtyards at Elk Creek, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I have a question. You said
Second, it was
Reserve
Reserve
4.
F.
You mean
Reserve
Oh,
F.
I'm sorry. Reserve F.
Yeah.
Second.
IMC.
Why that looked like a, I
Second.
have no idea.
All right.
Sorry about that.
No worries. We have a first with amendment to Reserve 4 by Dr. Becker, seconded by Peggy O'Donnell. Questions, comments?
Reserve F.
Yeah. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
same sign.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
On D, I'd like to make a motion to approve an order vacating certain portions of the drainage and utility easements on property located within the corporate city limits of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, Lot 25 of Block 1 in the courtyards at Elk Creek, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and seconded. Questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
on E, I make a motion to approve an order vacating certain portions of drainage and utility easements on property located within the corporate city limits of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, Lot 22 of Block 1 in the courtyards at Elk Creek, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and second. Questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item F.
Mr. Mayor? I would like to make a motion to approve an order vacating certain portions of drainage and utility easements on property located within the corporate city limits of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, Reserve E in the courtyards at Elk Creek, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Betty's turn.
I'll go ahead on G. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve an order vacating certain portions of drainage and utility easements on property located within the corporate city limits of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, Reserve D in the courtyards at Elk Creek, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First, second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you all very much, and I did want to
There's
throw
more.
Mr. Lasher one more accolade this evening. He helped us be able to pull this together very quickly, and that will make a big difference to the developer, because now we can kind of get everything done, and we won't have somebody buying a lot and then having to re-explain to them what's going on. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank our planning commission too.
Yes.
Thank you for all this. All right. Items H and I, our next two items, are also for easement vacations. However, these are in Deer Run. And the developer of Deer Run is requesting a couple of easement vacations to assist with home construction. The vacations went through the same process as we just discussed with the courtyards, and were also approved by the Planning Commission last Thursday. Phil Myers here with Baughman Engineers, who can answer any questions you
Yes,
have
sir.
on this one.
Good evening, Phil Meyer with Baughman Company, agent for the applicant. We're here tonight to request two easement vacations in the Deer Run development. And so in both of these, what we're trying to do, our crystal ball got a little fuzzy when we were platting this, and we've attempted to come back and spread all these lots to an 80-foot width. We had a variety of lots when we first started. We had 3 different sizes. Now we're trying to get all of them, or as many as we can, to 80 foot. By vacating these 2 easements, that helps us secure that. So we have worked with your bond counsel on trying to put together some boundary shift agreements, and have been working with Keith and have that done. These vacation cases are the last piece to the puzzle for us to achieve that expanded lot width. So on this first one that's up here, there's a 30-foot utility easement that's platted. Several utilities were going in there in the initial stages when we platted. Only sanitary sewer went in there. So we're requesting to vacate the easterly 5-foot of that 30-foot easement. There's still a 25-foot easement available. And if we could flip to the next one, on the other one that's in your packet, there is a 20-foot utility or drainage easement, and there's a storm sewer in that 20-foot easement today that sits 5 foot off the easement line. What we're going to do is we're going to vacate the northeasterly 10 feet and rededicate 10 more feet on the southwesterly side, so you still have the same amount of easement in place. We have supplied the city with a replacement easement, so that will get recorded whenever the vacation ordinance gets recorded. And so with that, I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
And I assume that the utilities are in agreement with your request to move the easement, that they have no difficulties or problems with that?
Yes, the 2 utilities that are in there are both City of Bel Aire.
City of Bel Aire.
one sanitary, one storm sewer.
And I want that clarified.
And we don't have any other private utilities in either of these easements.
All right, thank you very much.
So again, items H and I here are dealing with both of this over there in Deer Run. Thank you for being here.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to move to approve an order vacating certain portions of drainage and utility easements on property located within the corporate city limits of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, Lot 8 of Block A in Deer Run, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and second, questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. All right, item I. Motion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion to approve an order vacating certain portions of drainage and utility easements on property located within the corporate city limits of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, Lot 3 of Block D in Deer Run, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and second, questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, moving right along, we're on item J. This is the revised comprehensive financial policy. And this came about and was discussed at length at our last workshop where we discussed the spending authority of department directors and the city manager. We kind of had an unwritten policy that the department heads could authorize the spending up to $5,000 and city manager up to $10,000. Council felt that this should be in writing. Didn't really disagree with the amounts, but that we needed to put this in writing, and I agree with that, and include in the financial policies for the city. The city manager inserted the spending caps with the inclusion of emergency situations. We did discuss that, so where the city manager could approve more, but again, that would be in the case of an emergency. So again, kind of taking the handshake agreement that we, and as we found a lot of other cities have around us that have been kind of in place for a number of years, and making it, putting it officially in writing as a policy. So that is what is before council this evening.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the revised City of Bel Aire Comprehensive Financial Policy and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Okay. Got a first and second. Questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, I have a little story. I always like to have everything in writing. This is kind of the way I roll. But I used to have a CEO at one time in my work history, and he always used to say, well, it's better not to have it in writing because that makes it easier to change things. So I think it's good to have it in writing.
In our packet, it did not have the final amount. At least I couldn't pull it up on mine. Did you guys have
No,
that?
I couldn't pull it up.
It doesn't
So,
have a final, but you
that's-
can,
Well, was it what we decided on the
The
workshop?
5 and 10.
It's just the limits of spending.
Right.
It's
Oh,
not
however,
a
the
total.
Well-
limit may be waived in emergency situations only.
Right, but was it the amounts we talked about at the workshop? Because it wasn't in,
Yeah.
5,000 and
5 and
10,000.
10,000, yeah.
okay, I just wanted to make sure.
5,000 for directors and 10,000 for our city manager.
But
Right.
the manager has
Emergency.
the
Emergency
limit
he can
for
do.
emergencies,
Right.
he can go over
Because I
that.
wanted to go higher, but, yeah, with that clause, I just wanted to make sure, because it wasn't in there, that if there was something my tablet didn't have.
Mr. Mayor, on J, in the written copy here, it says consideration of approving the revised City of Bell comprehensive financial. Then in the action, it says the revised City of Bell. I would just request that we finish the name of the city. Put that in.
Little typo
Mine says
there.
air.
Mine doesn't.
Yeah, for sure.
On the
does.
agenda, it
says-
says Bel Air.
Yeah, mine
Yeah,
does
the
too.
agenda
My
does,
City
yeah.
of Bell comprehensive
talking.
financial.
Huh.
I must have updated yours, Guy, after
Yeah.
Mine says Bel Aire.
And yours.
Well, mine does not, so
Okay.
that's
Mine
therefore.
does.
Some
You
say-
got the
doesn't.
earlier version.
Well, yeah, I got that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was it.
But I put it in there.
Anyway,
yeah,
right,
mine
as long as we're called Bel Air, that's,
Yes,
that's all
fine.
that's
Good
necessary.
catch.
Okay.
There's a first and second on the floor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Good catch, Guy.
Yeah. Okay. Item K, I'm going to ask Mr. Lasher kind of talk about this. Our budget 2017 included $25,000 for water system updates. Our city engineer is recommending 2 new variable frequency drive pumps for the Wichita system, as well as an upgrade to the North Water Tower. So, looks like, for, again, what are we talking, 3,500 above? So, but anyway, is that something you can?
Sure.
talk
Yeah,
about?
so we have, on Woodlawn, there's a building outside, it's a brick building outside of the shop that people mostly see when they go by, and there's the water main that comes in from Wichita there, and then we have pumps that we can turn on and off to pump it into the water towers. And right now, the pumps that we use, they either turn on or off, kind of like your sump pump. It turns on and shoots water out and then shuts off. And that obviously it works, but when you're talking about the pressures and the size of water that those pumps are moving, when you turn it on, it sucks a great deal of electricity because you flip it on and all of a sudden it starts pumping full speed, and then so the water starts rushing through your water mains, and can cause some pressure issues because the rest of the water has just been sitting there slowly being used by people turning the faucets on, and all of a sudden you get this hit of water, 16-inch main coming through, and it can put some pressure on the water mains. And then when you're to the point where the tower's full or whatever, and we shut the pump off, it just automatically shuts off, and so the water stops moving. And so what happens is then it starts, if when you turn water and you put it in a tray or something and you move it up and down, it goes one direction. Well, that's what happens, is all that pressure was moving, and then you shut it off and then it comes back, and then again that causes undue pressure on the water mains. And so we've been wanting to do this for quite a few years, but Ann felt this would be the time to replace those. And the variable speed pumps, what they do is they slowly turn on. So you flip the switch and then the pump just slowly starts going up, going up, going up to get your pressure that you need, and you don't have that immediate pull of electricity. And then when we're full, then it starts, you flip the switch again, then it starts reducing, slow, and then it shuts off. So it's kind of like if you ever used a ball valve, it works the same way. If you do it slowly, then it shuts everything off much easier than just slamming it shut. And so the two things that it will do is it'll help our electricity because we're not going automatically demanding all that electricity, so our efficiency will go up. And then it helps with the wear and tear of our water mains. And so that's the reason that Ann would like to do that. And the second piece of it is installing a SCADA system for our mixer in the North Water Tower. And this is, by not having this, there's an issue that comes up, which is what caused the issues on the boil warning that we had. And a SCADA system is a system that's set up through computers that can notify you of something that's going on. And what happened with CCUA is that there was some type of system failure, and when it wasn't injecting the chlorine that it should have when it was coming to us, they weren't notified of it because their SCADA system was down. And so that's why a SCADA system is important. When we recently, when council approved the contract to repaint the the North Water Tower, part of that was to install a mixer system because in that particular tower, it feeds the new areas of town, and if it doesn't turn over enough, then your chlorine can break down, and you can have chlorine problems. We didn't have any problems, we just noticed it would come in at a higher rate, and then it would leave at a lower rate. It was always within what's required by KDHE. But to ensure that we always had good chlorine, we put an actual mixture in that. And so that will keep our north tank always continually turning over, because the water comes in at the top and leaves at the bottom. And so this keeps it mixed. And the SCADA system then will tell us if the mixer is not working. And so that's the other reason she wanted to add the SCADA system to that, so that whenever they have the mixer set to run, to keep the chlorine suspended in the tank, if it's not working, we'll find out and we can address it. So those are the two items. And as the mayor mentioned, we budgeted $25,000 for water system improvements. This is over a little bit, and Ann said she could reduce some spending in another line item to cover that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I would like to second what Mr. Lasher has just said. And I can do that because when I was driving trucks a long time ago, I drove tanks, and I hauled liquids as well as gas. And while the analogies that I can make are not 100% equal, they're similar enough for me to see the direct benefit, despite the slightly higher cost in spending for these devices, these variable frequency drives. In what Mr. Lasher said, we will save electricity. We'll also save wear and tear on the pumps themselves. And going back to the tank trucks, that particularly with coal and gases, that R12 and R22 and things like that, they have caps on the end of valves. And a person who drives one of those trucks never stands in front of one of those caps while they're removing it. The caps have to be removed before you can attach a hose. With the gas in particular, you just take one little, they're held on by two ear locks. You take on one, and as you take the other one a quarter of the way down, it will blow from here to the corner of the room at an extremely high velocity. Now, that's not a direct analogy to someone getting hurt or killed, but it is analogous to the harm it can do to a pump and associated equipment. And as far as the mixing in the tanks, many tanks that I hauled had liquids, and some of which required what they call baffles, and they're simply a piece of metal in a vertical situation in a horizontal tank, and they have holes in them, and what they do actually is prevent the liquid from rushing forward when the driver hits the brake. It sort of ameliorates the whole effect and makes it move much more slowly. Now, that's not the same as mixing in a tank, but it makes everything in the tank, it makes everything uniform, as Mr. Lasher said. In a tank truck, a weak analogy is it makes things much more smooth and, as a consequence, homogeneous, because the constant back and forth keeps things at a certain concentration of whatever the material is. So I second that strongly, even though there's an increased cost.
I appreciate Mr. Lasher's and Ann getting in there and McDonald's. So when you say second, do you want to make the motion then? Or you're just okay.
I'm just seconding
gotcha.
his comment.
Okay.
I'm making an agreement with his comment.
Okay, I am going to make a motion to accept the quote from RW Vought, is that how you say it? To install 2 VFD pumps and add the new tower mixer to the SCADA system at a cost not to exceed $28,500, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Number first and second. Any questions or comments? And again, to remind those at home, and it's good to hear that way to find that $3,000 for.
Yes, thank you.
I think this is a great way to spend that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
May I ask something?
Please do.
You know, when we do things like this, it's so rational and such a solid idea. I always wonder, why didn't we do this before? Was it a matter of finance?
It was
or-
always the finance, because we just budget 25,000, there's always something that seemed to come up. And as Mr. McDonald stated, pumps wear out. And so their concern was, okay, well, we've put it off long enough, at some point that pump's gonna go out, or those pumps are gonna go out. So rather than having them go out and then immediately have to scrounge money to fix them because we've done something else, so we should go ahead and get it done now.
So it was just their turn?
Yep,
for
yep.
this. Okay, thank you.
Final two items this evening are appointments. The first one, item L, the LKM, or the Kansas Legislature last year made changes to our elections that started this year. So elections were moved from April until November. Used to be that appointments were made in May, but the question came up about moving them to January. Council discussed these options at length at our last workshop and felt that Bel Aire's charter ordinance, as well as the state statute language dealing with appointments, should be left in May and should stay that way at this time. So therefore, I am recommending the reappointment of Mr. Ty Lasher as our city manager.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I make a motion to confirm the reappointment of Ty Lasher as the Bel Aire city manager.
Second.
We were all ready for
We
that.
all want to do it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Thank
Opposed,
you.
Same sign, all righty.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I do have a question. You know, we all filled out whatever we're going to call those, a numeric kind of guide for things we felt he was strong in, things that could be improved. Will we get anything back from that when you've been commingled?
Well, we-
Because as far as I know, you're the only one that's seen
Yeah,
it.
Betty and
I
I
did.
combined all those and presented it to him. I can certainly share that.
I could, if you like, I could do, what I actually did was, because we have to have those for our files.
Files, yeah.
And so I just took an evaluation form and then just took everybody's and then averaged them out and then put them in and just put it in my file and the mayor signed it. So I could give you a copy of that, sure.
We came up, I'll just say, it was a culmination, a passing grade.
Yep.
There were actually very, very few comments. So,
Okay.
but I'm happy to share those. I hadn't thought of them. I apologize.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that in the future, when we have to look at someone we have a contract with and we have to make a recommendation, that after all the council members have done so, that they be distributed so all the council members can know what the other council members think about whatever issues, and I think that would be useful to the council as a whole.
I know last year you and I did, and this year Betty and I did, but yeah, we'll make sure that, okay.
Mr. Mayor, I think that we, personally, the way that evaluation thing was done, we might want to talk about it at a workshop and change some of that stuff.
Make it shorter.
Well, not necessarily shorter, but it was,
There's a lot of standard boilerplate.
there is a lot of standard stuff on there that I'm thinking, okay, what's this?
Okay.
Isn't some of that confidential though, like what I put down? Like, do we want? I just would think your evaluation, I
talking
mean, I
about
don't
the
get, no one
form,
else gets to
filling
see
it
mine
out.
at school, would,
We're a confidential group. I mean, if we as a group must vote, then we as a group, as individuals among the group, should know what the other people think. Otherwise, we have to have that knowledge, I think, in order to make an intelligent decision. It's not, we aren't broadcasting this to citizens out there. We're not calling up the local businesses and telling them that this is what we think about the city manager. This is just among the elected members of the community, and I don't see anything, I don't see any violation of confidentiality in this particular instance.
I agree that I think the process needs to be tweaked a little bit, so that's something we should talk about
Yeah.
at some point.
One of our midnight workshops.
Yeah. All right, let's move us on to item M, which is the appointment of a new city attorney. As many of you know, back in January, Allison Brown resigned, and your governing body spent the last couple of months determining, we really discussed what we wanted to do with that position, full-time versus continuing kind of the way we had done it, and who the candidates might be. So to let the community know that there's a lot of discussion, a lot of meetings amongst many people sitting up here tonight. And we decided to hire a full-time attorney that would fit within our budget. We then began reviewing applications and interviewing candidates. And we brought 2 candidates in for a second interview. And the consensus of the governing body was that Jacqueline Kelly would be the best fit. And therefore, I am recommending the appointment of Jacqueline Kelly as our new city attorney.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
On that, would you like to add full-time? Because we've never had a full-time city attorney before.
Yeah, we can put that in the.
I think it's in the
contract, but yeah, we could certainly.
We approve it.
If somebody wants to make that
Mr. Mayor?
motion, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to confirm the appointment of Jacqueline Kelly as the full-time Bel Aire city attorney.
Second.
First and second, questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
You called that vote so fast I didn't get a chance to say, I am delighted that the city of Bel Aire is going to have a full-time attorney now. And I also think we had an excellent choice here. And so it's an exciting time for our city because this is a big change that we really needed to make, and it's a good thing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll let you know the majority of the council, along with the city manager and myself, have full confidence in you, and we're excited to have you here. The appointment is confirmed. And with that, since we're here.
Mr. Mayor.
Sworn in.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to do that. We have our city clerk
Sorry.
here. Let's go ahead and swear you in. Let's make this official. Yeah.
Ask you to the podium.
I have a comment,
Mhm.
but we can do the swearing in.
Okay.
Thank you. And if you'll just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Kansas.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
The ordinances of the City of Bel Aire, Kansas.
the ordinances of the City of Bel Aire, Kansas,
And that I will faithfully perform the duties of my position for the City of Bel Aire
and I will faithfully perform the duties of my position for the City of Bel Aire
to the best of my ability, so help me God.
to the best of my ability, so help me God.
And you will just sign there for me. All right, I'll take care of the rest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Nguyen had a comment?
Yes, I did. Again, we alluded to the fact that oftentimes we make decisions up here and don't really, the people who are watching and the people who are really paying us to be here do not know how or why we vote the way we do. We had in this group of people that we interviewed for a full-time city attorney, we had a number of very good interviewees. So it wasn't like it was an easy decision. And we saw resumes and we asked questions that our constituents didn't get to see. But I think that it behooves me, as I voted no, to explain both to the constituents and to Jackie why I voted no. There was one other candidate who had some experience in the type of law that we need. And I didn't feel like we had a good description, a good job description for what I wanted as an attorney. I don't want a best friend. I don't want somebody who dresses the best. I wanted somebody that's a bulldog when I need a bulldog. So I voted no. But Jackie, I do want you to understand that I will fully support you and work with you in any way that I can.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, instead of repeating everything she said, I agree with her wholeheartedly, and I will also support you and do anything I can.
Thank you.
And I just want to say welcome.
We're excited to have you on board, so we'll have a city attorney at our next meeting.
Yes.
And we are to discussion and future issues.
Mr. Mayor, at the, after the workshop, the last workshop and the last special meeting adjourned, you advised the council that you had been asked to go to a particular convention relative to real estate, and that was going to be coming up soon. And I went online and I've looked up that particular convention and its location, and it is the International Council of Shopping Centers. And that is a tremendously large event.
Yes.
There's going to be at least 37,000 people who are going to attend, who they have to purchase tickets to do so. The structure within which this meeting is going to take place has 853,000 square feet, and there's going to be a minimum of 1,200 exhibitors. Now, I've got a varied past, and one of them was as a manufacturer's rep, and I used to have to go to Dallas, Texas twice a year, and I was with the vendors who promoted their goods to particular people, and I know what it's like. I haven't been to this particular event, but I know what's going to happen. People who go there for the first time are going to be awestruck. I don't know how many events like this you personally have been to, but it's a remarkable feeling. And it's easy to get lost in the crowd there. And while a great many things can be learned, it's difficult without prior work to set up appointments and have consultations with particular vendors and people who can indicate their expertise and pass that expertise along to a person like yourself who listens to them. So in looking at the sessions that they provide, I saw one that I would ask the mayor look at very closely, and I would like to have the mayor attend this particular session. It's called A Closer Look at Leasing Financials, the Numbers Behind the Deal. And the person who's going to give it is named John L. Gerdes, Gerdes. And he's...
But can you tell me which day, because...
That's May 23rd, Tuesday. It's 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
And look at what's highlighted.
And what do you have there?
A closer look at leasing financials.
Great, okay.
So that's all
good.
the schedule they've put together for.
Okay, so if you come back and if you will advise this council what you have learned from that. Now realize this is a shopping center oriented presentation, and the people who are really going to be in attendance are going to be people like McDonald's, what I was going to say Sears or J.C. Penney's, but the big retailers in this country who want to establish themselves in a particular mall someplace or a shopping center someplace. But that doesn't mean that you, representing the city of Bel Aire, cannot gain some knowledge from listening to these type of presentations. So I'm glad that you have that down on your schedule, and I look forward to your report when you get back about what you have heard about financials.
Appreciate that. Just to comment on that, yeah, this is something, matter of fact, I met with our group earlier this afternoon, and yeah, there's actually kind of 3 different groups at this, those representing stores, those representing vendors, and people that do like research and marketing groups, and then developments and municipalities. So, and there's 3 of us going, and I'm actually, like I said, going with Marlon T. With the John T. Arnold group as a part. I mean, with that, and I really appreciate, yeah, because this is, I mean, it is humongous, and I've been to conferences.
I have a good time.
I've been to conferences before, but yeah, this is huge, and so yeah, we've already picked out specific booths that I'm to meet with and visit and scheduling, and I look forward to giving a full report to this council. And I just want to say this is exciting that Bel Aire is at this point that we can go to something like this. I mean, this is,
It's awesome.
we never would have imagined this
No.
as much as a year ago. So, but anyway, yeah.
Thank you.
And if there's any other suggestions for that, I'd be happy to take that. So.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Do you have any idea about how much all this is going to cost us?
I mean, plane ticket cost.
Well, that was on the appropriations, and that was minimal, $500 and some dollars.
550 something.
And, but I was wondering if, being Arnold Company invited you, they're not paying anything toward it, or it comes out of the city?
Not sure how all that's working. It's kind of like a shared cost, isn't it?
Yeah, they're not paying any of
Yeah.
the cities.
So they're going, but yeah, they're ready to go forward and really.
I didn't hear that, Mr. Lesher.
Yeah, they're not paying the mayor's way.
So the city will pay the mayor's way?
Yes.
Do you have any idea what total cost might be on that?
I thought they had said something, a couple thousand, maybe, something, if I remember right.
A couple thousand, you say?
Yeah.
That'd be about right. By the
About
time
right
we
for
pay
a full
hotel.
I don't
conference.
remember what the,
Yeah.
Like I said, I did pick a cheaper hotel than what they're, than where
Yeah.
they are, so.
It's great.
Yeah. Hopefully a very good investment.
Okay.
Anything else to come before council this evening?
No executive, right?
I have no need for an executive.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
8:42.
When I saw that.